Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. We are halfway through summer. 4th of July is fast approaching. It is tomorrow if you are listening to this on Wednesday, the day that this is released. And as a kid, I remember being kind of sad after the 4th of July was over because it kind of marked the halfway point of summer being over. And I hated going to school. So I felt this sense of, okay, it's 4th of July. Now I'm going to start worrying about school starting up again. I'm going to grieve the summer. It's starting to come to an end. But as an adult, I'm looking forward to the summer coming to an end because, good God, it is hot. I don't know where you're at, but in California, it is currently hotter than Satan's ballsack, and it is not looking like it's going to cool down anytime soon. But the best way to get through it, though, the one positive about summer, there's more than just one, but is all the good fruits that are available. I love that about summer. You got all the berries, watermelon, and it doesn't taste like shit because it's actually in season. It's amazing what eating food in season, like what a big difference it can make than if you're buying fruit in the winter and it's coming from who knows where, mostly Mexico, China, So being able to buy fresh, local, in-season food can make all the difference. So I guess this is a little encouragement. If you haven't stopped by your local farmer's market for some fresh summer fruit, produce, etc., you're missing out. So go do that because fresh, seasonal, local fruit, there is nothing like it. It tastes so much better. And I think you might enjoy summer a little more if you knew how good that fruit tasted. And if you don't like fruit, you might try the farmer's market fruit. It might just win you over, and it's good for you. So speaking of fruit, I wanted to go over a study about blueberries, actually, which are in season and one of my favorite berries. But also, for some reason, like fresh blueberries are great, but I actually like frozen blueberries more, especially in the summer because they're, it's hot and it's like a nice little treat. And anyways, blueberries are one of my favorites. I'll eat a whole bag if I have it open. It's not probably great, but anyways. So this study is, it's questioning whether blueberries have differing effects on executive functioning and depression. So let's dive in here. So what was studied? The effects of freeze-dried blueberry consumption among young adults who were experiencing depressive symptoms. So the primary outcome was depressive symptom severity assessed with the Beck Depression Inventory. Second measures included anxiety and anhedonia. I can't say this, sorry. The inability to feel pleasure. That's anhedonia. I think that's how it's pronounced. And stress levels, which were assessed using the Generalized Anxiety Disorder Scale. I'm very familiar with that one. And Snaith-Hamilton Pleasure Scale and Perceived Stress Scale, respectively. So, the short-term effects of blueberry intake on executive function were assessed using task switching test. The degree to which participants felt positive effects, moods, happy, strong, motivated, and negative effects, afraid, sad, hostile, were assessed using the expanded form of the positive and negative effect schedule. So who was studied? 60 young adults, average age of 20, 41 women, 19 men who were experiencing depressive symptoms but were free of any health conditions. So how was it studied? So it was 6 weeks randomized controlled trial. The participants received either a beverage containing 22 grams of freeze-dried blueberries or a placebo beverage with blueberry flavoring and the same carbohydrate and fiber content as the blueberry beverage. Baseline assessments were conducted before beverage consumption. Affect and executive functioning assessments were repeated 2 hours after consumption. The participants were then instructed to prepare and consume their assigned beverages each morning for 6 weeks using packets of powdered drink mix. So what were the results? Depressive symptoms, anxiety, and anhedonia were reduced in both groups after 6 weeks. The reductions were larger in the placebo group compared to the blueberry group. So during short-term testing, positive effect was increased in the blueberry group in comparison with the placebo group. Accuracy in the executive functioning test was increased in the blueberry group, although the improvements in reaction time were smaller compared to the placebo group. So following blueberry consumption, the improvements in positive effect and accuracy were greater among individuals with low fruit and vegetable consumption compared to high consumption, and were greater among men compared to women. So, some trends towards differences between groups were noted at baseline, although they did not meet the common standards for statistical significance. The blueberry group reported longer duration of depressive episodes at baseline and had lower levels of parental education, a proxy marker for socioeconomic status. So this study was funded by the Wild Blueberry Association of North America. So, in summary, blueberry consumption had favorable short-term effects on mood and executive functioning, but was inferior to a placebo in regards to depressive symptoms after 6 weeks among young adults. So unfortunately, it doesn't sound like blueberries do much for you when you're feeling blue, but they are anti-inflammatory, they are an antioxidant, which leads me to today's topic, which is inflammation. So, blueberries are anti-inflammatory, so I would encourage you to still eat them, even if they're not going to improve your depressive episodes. But hey, eating healthy in and of itself can help. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about inflammation. It's a hot topic. It's one of those buzzwords right now. So what is it? And let's take a deep dive and find a bit more about what is all the hoopla about inflammation and why are we so terrified of it? Is it really that bad? How do we avoid it? All that stuff, all right? So, what is inflammation? Inflammation is your body's natural defense against injuries and infections, and it comes in two forms. So we have acute and we have chronic, and there is a difference. So acute is something like an injury. You mess up your knee and it's swollen and it's red and you probably need surgery, kind of like me because I'm not lucky. So that's an injury. Acute inflammation is due to an injury. Chronic is a different story, and chronic is the one that becomes problematic. So chronic inflammation is prolonged inflammation that can contribute to various diseases, such as heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and arthritis. So it's often less about visible symptoms and more about internal impact. So that sounds pretty scary, right? Inflammation can cause a lot of things that I'm personally terrified of. I don't know about you. But the good news is there are ways that we can keep our inflammation in check. So like most things, there's at least a little something in our control. So how do we kind of prevent inflammation or at least focus on what we can control? So of course, diet. That's going to be a huge thing. So overeating in general can produce some inflammation. So even if you're a bodybuilder and you're bulking, I know personally when I'm bulking, I'm eating in a calorie surplus. I just feel more puffy. I honestly don't feel great. So that's because I'm overeating essentially. And it's one of those needed things when it comes to bodybuilding, putting on muscle. But unfortunately, it's a little bit of a sacrifice because you don't feel great when you're overeating, right? So, but there are foods that can trigger it, and you don't necessarily have to overeat them in order for it to trigger it. So things like processed meats, refined sugar, trans fats, all those highly palatable, ultra processed foods, those foods that are really hard to stop eating. So, cookies, cakes, all that stuff, Pop-Tarts, chips, all the fun things, right? Fast food, Taco Bell, those are all things that can contribute to inflammation, unfortunately. It's sad and sucky that life is just not fair, that everything that tastes delicious is going to cause some inflammation. But we do have some anti-inflammatory foods. So things to make the majority of your diet from to help prevent chronic inflammation. Things like that, or those things will be omega-3 fatty acids. So that's found in things like salmon, fatty fish, sardines, flax seeds, and walnuts. Those are just a few on the list of things that contain omega-3s. So if you don't like fish, definitely recommend supplementing with some sort of fish oil supplement or krill oil, but you got to make sure it comes from a good source. Don't buy, the cheap shit from Walmart. Make sure it's a source where it's not gonna go rancid and it's just actual high quality fish oil. Let's see. So some other antioxidants, as I mentioned, blueberries. So fruits and vegetables, berries, green leafy vegetables, and also things like beets. Basically the foods that have, that's why we always say, eat the rainbow. The foods with those nice dark colors, like the beets, for example, that's where all those awesome antioxidants are to be found. So there's also spices that are anti-inflammatory, so spices like turmeric and ginger, and there's more. I did go to culinary school and I know a good amount of spices, but I didn't really keep tabs on which ones were all anti-inflammatory. But specifically turmeric is a popular one. They even sell them in capsules along with ginger. So hey, if you can turmeric all over the food, or if you hate turmeric, you can take capsules of it. So how about exercise? Where does this fall into play with inflammation? So exercise can actually spike inflammation at first, but it's temporary. It goes back down. Just remember, we break down muscle in the gym, and inflammation is what helps us repair that muscle. So for example, if you have a hard workout, I know for me personally, on like leg workouts or any workout where I'm using large muscle groups and I'm pushing myself really hard, I will actually weigh more the next day because there's a little bit more inflammation going on in my body. So it's temporary though. Scale goes back down once you flush out that inflammation, but you just, there is a healthy level of inflammation. We can't just avoid all inflammation, unfortunately, but there's a good amount of inflammation to have, right? Balance, right? That's what it's all about. But long-term benefits of exercise, you can regular exercise can actually reduce the levels of inflammation long-term, and it can help improve, your chances of getting some chronic diseases. So exercise is a good thing, even though it does spike inflammation acutely, it's not in a bad way. All right, so lifestyle factors, outside of diet, of course, a huge one that can contribute to inflammation or not is sleep, getting enough sleep. We all know by now how beneficial sleep is, but again, with inflammation, it is also beneficial. So, poor sleep can cause an increase in inflammatory markers, and good sleep can help lower them down. And also stress, mental health. I cannot emphasize enough, we tend to think that our mental health is different than our physical health, but our head is not detached from our body. We are all one and the same. And without if your mental health is not healthy, you're just not healthy in general. You can't be healthy in one way or another. It has to be the whole body. And that's why I like to try to incorporate more emphasis on mental health in my programs, because it is so gosh darn important. All right. So practical tips here. What can you do? What can you take away and apply to your life? So you can apply the anti-inflammatory lifestyle. Just kidding. You don't have to label it that way. That sounds very gimmicky and cheesy, and I have nothing to sell you with anti-inflammatory lifestyle ebook. If you would like no, I'm just kidding. All right. So all this means is balanced diet, regular exercise, avoiding ultra processed foods and stuff. Don't make the majority of your diet come from fast food, all those delicious foods. It's okay to have it in moderation, but it's not something you want the majority of your diet to be made up with. Of course, more practical tips: sleep, stress management. These are all things that, generally contribute to a healthy lifestyle in general. There's nothing new and shiny there for me to give you, except for, hey, here's some more evidence that balanced diet, exercise, proper sleep, and stress management overall will lead to better health. So continue to focus on those things. If you continue to focus on those things, a lot of other things are going to get to line up and follow, even if that's something like weight loss or muscle gain or just overall feeling better. So that's about all on this podcast about inflammation. I'll just kind of keep this one short and sweet, but I just want you to know you don't have to fear all inflammation, but being chronically inflamed can unfortunately lead to some health consequences. So it's good to pay attention to what you're putting in your body and your overall health. So that wraps up this. I can talk. I swear, I just turn on the camera and I'm just going to get so tongue twisted. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up. I hope everyone has a safe 4th of July. If you're dreading the summer being over, chances are you're probably not listening to this because you're not a child. But hopefully there is cooler weather ahead for all of us. Drink your water. I'm going to remind you. That's the last thing I'm going to remind you. Hydrate, all right? If you're getting headaches, if your urine is yellow as hell, you are dehydrated. Please drink some water, all right? All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Peace out. I will talk to you next time.